I'm really thrilled to introduce our last speaker. And this is a real privilege for me because I was raised by teachers. And I believe that teachers play a critical role in shaping our future. And the person that you're going to hear from now is our Teacher of the Year across this country. Missy Testerman is a kindergarten through 8th grade English as a second language ESL teacher. Missy served as a 1st and 2nd grade teacher at Rogersville City School in Rogersville, Tennessee for 3 decades before taking advantage of the state's Grow Your Own initiative and adding an ESL endorsement 3 years ago. Missy plans to use her year of service as National Teacher of the Year to empower teachers to advocate for students and fellow educators by using their voices and sharing their experiences with those outside the classroom. She's from Tennessee, and she's the first generation college graduate in her family. I am so enthusiastic to have you invite Missy to the stage.
Good evening. Thank you, Tansley. So if you're wondering about that song choice, it's very intentional. It's Friday. I guarantee most teachers in America felt just like the words of that song today. I'm so excited to be with you this evening. I was in California at the beginning of the week, and I thought it was cold there because it was around 50. Michigan decided to show me there's a whole new version of cold. I just told Princess as we passed backstage that I feel like that there's been some kind of straw contest and I lost because each of these women has gotten up and spoken about so many remarkable issues within the credit union and financial world. I'm not in the credit union or the financial world. You may be asking yourself, why in the world did they bring the National Teacher of the Year here? Because I was also asking myself that. But I know one thing, teachers deliver equity. We make equity possible. Not just for girls, but for children who are black and brown from various backgrounds who may have differing abilities than what is considered standard. Teachers and educators make equity possible, and I know there's at least one other person in this room who does that because we spoke shortly before. He's a director of schools, so I thank him for his work. But I'm from a very, very small town in Tennessee. There we go. Okay, get back to my first one. This is my beautiful downtown, so it looks a lot like downtown Detroit, exactly right. No, actually it is quite different. In my town, we have a McDonald's, but not a Chick-fil-A. We have one grocery store and we have a Walmart. There are around 4,500 people in Rogersville, Tennessee, and at least about 7 credit unions. So we have plenty of credit union options. That's fabulous. In Rogersville, Tennessee, everyone knows everyone else. Our downtown does look like a Hallmark movie, but occasionally one of the 4,500 people who live in my town will find themselves embroiled in a scandal that could be the basis of a Lifetime movie. It is a beautiful balance. This is my school, Rogersville City School. Our school situation is kind of interesting. Last year, we celebrated 100 years of service to our community. Thank you. I was the Tennessee Teacher of the Year at that time. So we had a big open house. We invited anyone who had ever stepped foot in our school at any time to come back, reminisce their time there, spend the day with us, see what the building looks like. I did a big welcome on behalf of our staff, thanked everyone for being there. Immediately when I finished, I had a student come up and ask if I was there when the school opened. I have not been there all 100 years. our school situation is a little different than you likely see in Detroit. Our school contains around 650 students in grades pre-K through 8. All of our instructional staff, all of our administrative staff, all of our central office staff, even our superintendent is contained within that one building. We are a one-school school system. We do not have a high school. Once our students finish with us in 8th grade, they must transfer into the county system to finish their high school career. But it's a beautiful place to work. It's a beautiful place to be. I had taught at Rogersville City School for 30 years. I love my job. I had absolutely no plans of changing anything until one morning in August 2021, when our school's English as a second language teacher came to me and told me that she would be leaving our school at the end of the school year because her husband had taken a job in another part of Tennessee. She was my closest school ally. Together, we had co-taught any student who came through our school who did not speak English as his or her first language. I was devastated, not just for the loss of her as an ally within the building, but this lady was much more than the ESL teacher. Whenever you're an immigrant family in Rogersville, Tennessee, you automatically stick out. It is an incredibly ultra-conservative area, and often those people are met with lots of suspicion that they did absolutely nothing to deserve. They simply want to find a place to be able to find a job, support their families, grow their families, and ensure their kids have a good future. But they're still met with suspicion. She had provided equity for those students every single day. The loss of her was going to be enormous, much more than I could bear to stand. I had been very, very fortunate. I had been the classroom teacher in first or second grades who had had every single one of those students in my classroom. I was vested in them and in their families. I really worried about who would advocate for that segment of our school's population. The very next day, I received an email from the state of Tennessee. It explained Tennessee's Grow Your Own program. And what that was a program where any teacher currently teaching in the state of Tennessee, already certified in teaching in a classroom, could add an endorsement onto his or her license at no cost. It would pay for the coursework, all of the materials, and even the opportunity, would even pay for the opportunity to take the praxis exam, which is the licensing exam that allows teachers to be licensed. So at age 51, I did something I would have never seen happening on my adult bingo card. I enrolled in Tennessee's Grow Your Own program, completed all the coursework. At the end of that year, at age 52, I became our school's English as a second language teacher, our English as a second language program director, and the Title III director. So in education, that's like doing doing 3 jobs and getting paid for one, because that's the reality lots of times. I love teaching first and second graders, but I've never loved teaching anyone as much as I love teaching this set of students. When I first inherited my caseload, I had 21 students. Teachers in Detroit have a much larger caseload if they're teaching English as a second language. My challenge was that my students were distributed across 9 grade levels. They each required 1 hour of daily service per day. It was a scheduling nightmare. But over the past 3 years, all but 2 of my original 12 have demonstrated mastery of the English language on the federally required WIDA exam. It's a test that students who are enrolled in English as a second language services must take. My school's rate of subgrowth for our ESL population is significantly above the national average, and we're a 4, which is the top that you can get on that measure. That doesn't have a thing to do with me. It has to do with the hard work of my students. It has to do with the devotion and the dedication of their parents to ensuring that they get a good education so that they can create a prosperous future for themselves. And it most definitely speaks for those other classroom teachers who have my students the other 6 hours a day. Whenever you live in Rogersville, Tennessee, and you look a little different than anyone else, it's often hard to adapt. So I don't have to just find teachers that I know will teach my kids at a really high level. I have to find teachers that I know will accept my kids and always do what's right for my kids. But because of my school size, that's an advantage. I'm able to place my students with teachers who are talent scouts and not deficit detectives. Those teachers who look at my students and see all the things that they can do and not all the things that they can't do. Fewer than 1 in 5 Americans is able to read, understand, and speak a language other than English. That is unheard of across the world. That number is much larger in Europe, Asia, every other developed place than it is in the United States. So I need those teachers to see my students as being linguistically gifted, of having those talents that not every other kid shows up at school with. But if you're looking on the screen and you see those faces and you're like, they're really cute, you know what? It's because you're really smart. They are. They're wonderful. I want to tell you a couple of stories about them. So they represent 3 continents, 5 countries, 4 different languages, and then they share English as their second language. I do have some students who ESL is not very accurate for. They actually speak 5 languages. I have one student who absolutely refuses to call it the EFL room, or the ESL room, because she speaks 5 languages. She will only call it the EFL room because she says it's embarrassing for people to think she might just know 2 languages. I don't want to know what she thinks about me. But I have 2 sets of identical twins, all girls. If you look at the set of twins on the first row, those are a special type of twins. They are called mono twins. They were actually developed from the exact same egg, split. They are carbon copies of each other. In order to make it more fun, their mom and dad named them Hannah and Jana, and they dress them alike every single day, down to the jewelry, down to the shoes. So when I first took this job, I had a lot of trouble keeping them separate. So I was in a meeting with the dad about one of the older students, and I'd taught both of the older children in that family, so I had a good relationship with them. And I asked him, Mr. Elkamesh, I'm having a lot of trouble keeping Hannah and Jana straight. Is there like a secret? And he said, oh, yes. One of them is good, and one is evil. Apparently, one of them is a terrible grouch at their house. At school, she's perfect. That helps absolutely none. But I want to tell you about one more little guy because he's going to come up in just a minute. If you start on the left-hand side and you look against the back wall and you count back about 3 rows, there's a little guy in a brown hoodie. His name is Adrian. Adrian may be the most interesting child I've ever taught in my entire career. He is 11, going on 37. He gets very obsessed about some really adult topics. Right now, it's tax codes. Last year, he went around Rogersville City School telling everyone they should go get a public library card because their tax dollars fund the public library. He constantly asks me, do you know where this road or that road is? And if I say no, he says, you should go drive on that road because they're fixing it with your tax dollars. But Adrian has a really, really clear plan for his future. When he grows up, part of his plan is he's going to get married the day he turns 18 years old. Because according to Adrian, the federal government withholds more taxes from single people than people who are married. So when he dropped that little Adrianism on us at lunch one day, the only girl in the entire group asked, Adrian, how will you do that? What if she says no? And Adrienne replied, well, I will just explain it. And unless she's stupid, she'll say yes. But hearing the stories of my students remind me it's a privilege to be an American. It's a privilege to be able to receive an education in a public school. It is absolutely my honor to advocate for this group of students within my school population. But as you look real quickly at my second graders, my sweet girls who come to school every day using their second language, for a couple of them, their third language, to communicate and learn because this country gives them the opportunity for a better life. Despite all the things that we hear everywhere right now about how bad things are, how bad things could be, how things will be, my students and their families don't see that. They see that America's the greatest country on earth. They see that we have so much freedom, so many opportunities, so many boundless experiences that we can have. They don't dwell on all of the negative things because they're just thankful to be here. But when you look at the picture of my girls especially, we went down a rabbit hole. And in Tennessee, that's what we use to phrase whenever you talk about something for a long time or you research something that you really have no business doing, like vacuum cleaners at 2:30 in the morning. But my girls often don't see themselves represented in certain careers, especially girls who have the skin or the background that they do. So recently we went down a rabbit hole because Daphne, who's an orange in the slide, told me that when she grew up, she wanted to be an engineer. I said, oh, Daphne, that would be great. You're so smart. You will be a great engineer. No, none of my other girls knew what an engineer was. So as I was trying to explain it, one of them interrupted me, not rudely, but she said, wait, you can't be an engineer if you're a girl. I felt like my heart had sank into my stomach because this is 2024, or it was 2025, this was 2024. And I have a girl who thinks that girls still can't be any profession they want to be. So immediately I said, yes, girls can be any occupation they wish to be. They just have to work hard, fulfill the requirements, and they can be that profession. So then they started asking, can girls drive airplanes? Can girls be judges? Can girls be police officers? Because in Rogersville, Tennessee, you don't often see that. And that representation is so important so that our girls who are out there see, here are women in very, very powerful positions. It doesn't just apply to girls. It also applies in every other field when students need to see people who look like them so that they understand someday that could be a possibility for me. And that is part of bringing equity into the situation. When my son was still in my school as an 8th grader, he was very embarrassed that he had a mom. Everyone understands that? He never talked to me at school, even though everyone in the whole school knew me. But one day he came to me in the middle of the day and he was livid. The counselor we had at that time was doing a career exploration class. And a young lady had said she wanted to be a doctor. And the guidance counselor had actually said, are you sure about that? There's a lot of math and science. That's inexcusable, but I want to show you on the screen is Dr. Jasmine Seal. Jasmine came from a, thank you. Jasmine came from a very impoverished background. She needed a lot of support from our school's teachers, from high school teachers who helped her navigate the complexities of applying to college, applying for the FAFSA, all of the steps that she didn't know how to do because no one had ever done in her family before. She went and earned a 4-year degree, took a gap year, went and earned an MBA, went back and went through medical school, and she's now a doctor. And it was because she believed in herself, our school's teachers believed in her family believed in her, and also because along the way, she had a female pediatrician. She knew that it was possible that someday she could be a doctor. So at the root of all of this, when we talk about equity in schools, a lot of it comes down to funding. I'm not going to get into that today, but I will talk about how important the teacher is. Every study ever done on student achievement has shown the same result. The most important factor in a child's educational background is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. In 10 years, someone's going to stand up here and say the same thing. It won't be AI, it won't be technology. It's always going to be the quality of the teacher in the classroom. So we have to make sure we recruit our best and our brightest teachers so that they all can go out into the world and help other people see what could be. Public education is a dignity and equity creator. It has been since public education came about in this country hundreds of years ago. It will be still in hundreds of years. We take kids from every background. We impart knowledge. We show them what could be, and then something magical happens. Through enough hard work and effort, we create doctors, lawyers, nurses, pilots, engineers, artists, musicians, politicians, anything that boys or girls could want to be. So I'm going to tell you one story real quickly before we leave. It's the best advice I've ever been given. On the screen is Adrian. Adrian is my 11 going on 37 guy. When I found out on national TV that I was invited to a state dinner at the White House, I was having lunch with my students a few days before. So Adrian asked, "Are you nervous about going to the White House?" I said, "Yes, because I have to get up and speak for 3 minutes. Come a really long way." Adrian pushed himself away from the table and he said, "I'm so nervous about this, I could vomit." So at first I thought maybe he thought he was going with me. And I asked, "Why are you nervous?" He said, "Well, I'm going to give you some advice and I hope you'll take it. When you're up there in front of everyone, they're looking at your hair, your makeup, your face, your nails, your jewelry, your earrings, your eyebrows, and your dress. Just maybe don't say anything dumb, okay?" My friends, no matter the situation, no matter where you are, just don't say anything dumb. Thank you for letting me be here tonight.